If you grow bonsai at all and your climate is at all suitable for it, I think you should have a ginkgo bonsai. That's the clickbaity premise of this video anyway. If all you want to know is why I think that, I'll put a timestamp below. If, however, you have a tolerance for me artily wandering around Korea looking at things, then look at this. Wow. You know, there's this famous temple in China that has an amazing old ginkgo. I feel pretty happy that I can come here and see one that is just as amazing. Actually, two.
It took some effort for me to get this perfect moment. A couple of weeks earlier, I came to take pictures and look at the fall ginkgos.
So today I came to these historic government buildings in my Korean town here. I wanted to take some pictures of the ginkgos, hopefully in fall color. But actually it looks like it'll be still another couple of weeks till they're fully yellow, but it's still pretty just the same here in autumn.
I recently got a new camera because my old Sony a6000 was getting very long in the tooth. I've been enjoying taking pictures with it, and it also allows me to do meta photography with two cameras like this. While I was here, I also tried again to get a good picture of my favorite tree in my Korean town, this red pine. At the time, the two ancient 700-year-old ginkgos were sectioned off, so I couldn't get close to them.
I wish I could get a better angle on it.
Look at the different forms produced by the different angle of branching on these 4 ginkgo trees. I love the broken fractal form of the branching here. Beauty is where you find it, but I love the beauty I find in my Korean town. Later, a class of school kids turned up on a field trip. People are sensitive these days about strangers taking photos of kids, so I had to practice my covert street photography skills.
Traditionally, ginkgo bonsais are grown in a flame or a candle shape. You know, I've heard that statement that ginkgos are traditionally grown in a candle or a flame or a candle flame shape so many times, and to be honest, I have absolutely no idea what it means. The ginkgos that I see growing around here do have a distinctive shape, but it's not one that I associate particularly with a candle or a flame. In fact, I'm not even too sure what a flame shape is. So when I look at the ginkgos around here, this is what I see. When they're young, they have a straight trunk like this, and from that trunk grow bar branches. And they grow at a certain angle, and that angle is consistent all the way up. So you get something like this. Now, depending on the tree, the angle of these branches might be 45 degrees, but you also often see ones where the angle is quite a bit more acute. So in that case, it's something more like this. Now the canopy has a distinctive shape, kind of a bread loaf shape. So it tends to come out to a point around this widest branch here, like this. Across the bottom, it's reasonably flat. And then from here, it sort of grows in a sort of a loaf shape like that. And then you get the same thing when the angle is more acute. You get kind of this bottom of the bread loaf shape, and then this rounded sort of a top. Now, as they get older, they do obviously tend to thicken up around the base, and they can also start to get lower branches that are taking off. You also, of course, start to lose branches up here.
So gradually you end up with a more complicated sort of a shape. When I see them grown in bonsai, this typical flame or candle shape, I often see them grown as sort of clump styles, something like this. Then they have a sort of amorphous, I guess it's a flame shape at the top, something like this. And to me, this just doesn't look like the ginkgos I see in nature. Now, admittedly, I have seen some pictures of ancient ginkgos, and what can happen with those is the sort of central trunk might die off and different lower branches start to take over. So you just start to see more of a shape like this with a very thick base, then still that same sort of shape on top. I think those clump style bonsai are trying to create this look, but for me, I don't really want to grow my ginkgo bonsai like this. I want more of this sort of a look, the look of the ginkgo that I see around here. This ginkgo bonsai from the 93rd Kokufu exhibition is closer to what I aspire to, although admittedly it will be a long time before I have the opportunity to make decisions about trees like this.
About 2 weeks ago, I was walking on the campus here where I work, and beneath this ginkgo tree here, I found some little baby seedling ginkgos growing. Rocks under here. Roots go down pretty deep. Actually goes down into a crack in the rock, I think. Might get it with some roots. Maybe not. Yeah, it goes into a crack in the rocks. There's a few roots.
I put the ginkgo seedlings I found into small pots. The reality is that I'm unlikely to be in Korea long enough to ever see these grow into substantial trees, so I prefer to enjoy them now as small bonsai rather than try to grow them on in larger pots. Ginkgos are notoriously slow growing. Back in Australia, I have a few ginkgo that I am growing on for the future. They don't look like much now, but wait a few decades.
The ginkgo has been called a living fossil. Now, what does that mean? To understand, we need to look at the evolution of the ginkgo.
At the highest level, we have the kingdom of Plantae, or everything that is a plant. Now within that kingdom, we have the spermatophytes, or seed-bearing plants, and various weird outliers, or word outliers, as I have it here, like ferns, algae, moss, etc. Within the spermatophytes, we have 5 living divisions. First are the flowering plants, the most successful group. And there are 250,000 species of those. Next, we have the conifers, beloved of bonsai enthusiasts. And there are 630 of those. Then there are the cycads with 160 species and something called the netophytes. The only one of these I've ever heard of is ephedra, so I drew a bag of meth. And finally, off on its own is our friend, the ginkgo. And there is exactly one and only one of these, the Ginkgo biloba. 200 million years ago, it was different. At that time, there were a bunch of different ginkgo species all over the world, but gradually they declined, losing out to the flowering plants, until eventually there was only one species left, and that one almost went extinct too.
Now, the ginkgo is a tough tree. These days, and around here, it's used as a street tree because it's so tough and it can handle pollution and compressed soil and foot traffic. So why was it reduced to this one tiny population in a corner of China? The answer is really interesting. It's to do with a probably now extinct animal.
It's also to do with these, the much despised ginkgo nut, which have the smell that is often compared to rancid butter, vomit, or rotting meat. I'm not as sensitive to it as some people, but while walking back home after filming this, I was convinced for a while that I'd accidentally stepped in dog shit. The leading theory is that in the distant past there was some animal, some sort of proto-squirrel or the like, that found this particular smell to be irresistible, and it was this animal that transported the ginkgo seeds to new places. However, for unknown reasons, this symbiotic animal went extinct. As a result, the ginkgo was no longer able to establish itself in new places, and declined until it survived only in a couple of tiny refuges in China. Fortunately, the ginkgo found another animal to distribute its seeds: humans. About 1500 years ago, Chinese monks started planting ginkgos. In the 14th century, this tradition spread to Korea and Japan, and this takes us right up to the 700-year-old ginkgos at my Korean town.
So that basically is why I think you should have a ginkgo bonsai. If your climate was at all suitable for it, I think everyone would agree you should have some kind of flowering plant bonsai. Equally, I don't think there's any doubt that if it's at all possible, you should have a conifer bonsai. Well, the ginkgo is as distinct as both of those other kinds of trees. And I think it would just be a shame not to include such an outlier that also makes a beautiful bonsai in your collection. There's an idea that I've heard in a couple of different bonsai videos. They say that you can tell the difference between male and female ginkgos based on their leaf shape, that one type has a slit in it and one type doesn't. Along with this, in these videos, they say that female ginkgos are especially rare. And the funny thing to me is that they always seem to have one of these especially rare female ginkgos in their collection. Yeah, no, like almost all species on Earth that have two sexes, ginkgos are about 50% male and female. And the variation in leaf shape is just that. It's just natural variation.
A couple of the ginkgos that I'd collected made it to fall, but one died.
People always console me for my dead bonsai. They seem to think I should mourn them. The truth is, the only thing I mourn is my own lack of bonsai skills. But just this one time, I'll mourn my baby ginkgo.
Oh, goodbye, baby ginkgo. Though I never knew you at all, you had the grace to propagate without your extinct marsupial. And it seems to me you lived your life just like a candle in the wind, while your relatives expired, you're continuing. And I would have liked to have grown you, but you came up with no roots. The candle burned out long before candle flame shape